At one time, Britain was one of the world leaders in pioneering locomotive design and development. Right from the early days of railways, innovation and development led to new locomotives that were more powerful and faster, delivering on the demands that society placed upon them. In 1947, the London, Midland and Scottish Railway rolled out the next major development in motive power, 10,000. Designed, developed and built in only 2 years, the locomotive was rolled out of Derby Works. It set the benchmark against which other diesel locomotive development would be compared. 10,000, along with its sister 10,001, proved the efficiency and capability of the then new modern traction. The locomotive and its pioneering English electric power unit were the origin of future developments in locomotive design, some of which still operate on the main line today. In fact, many diesel locomotives that were designed and built in Britain can trace their ancestry to the twins, as they became known. Unfortunately, both locomotives were scrapped before the preservation movement had fully formed, and so the original locomotive was lost forever. Or so you would think. In 2011, the Ivat Diesel Recreation Society was formed, with the aim of bringing back Britain's pioneering locomotive 10,000. While seemingly an impossible task, on closer inspection, all the ingredients were available in one form or another. A suitable chassis from the same lineage, in the form of a Class 58. Bogies from a scrapped Class 77 that are in evolved form of those developed for 10,000. A power unit of the same type and vintage with very low running hours on the clock that was made available. Many English electric equipment and components are still readily available in the wider spares pool. Today the Society has gathered a great momentum with new contacts made in the rail industry, invaluable support from our host railway and our much appreciated supporters, members and volunteers. Without their help we would not be in the position we are now, with the donor chassis, same type bogies and power unit, plus many other components and fittings that will lead to a recreated 10,000. We are now reaching the crucial point where the heavy engineering begins. The donor Class 58 being reduced to a chassis to enable enhancements made to interface with the bogies. The bogies are being prepared for overhaul. The power unit is being taken to a specialist for work, and the many accumulated components are being overhauled in the workshop, ready for assembly into 10,000. We are now in an era where Britain can no longer design, develop or build its own mainline locomotives, so wouldn't it be great to showcase what is possible when we work together with the same pioneering spirit that produced 10,000? Imagine 10,000 making visits to railways across the country, pulling trains of the same period and inspiring the next generation of rail enthusiasts and rail industry pioneers. A shining example of Britain's once great railway engineering capability. Now wouldn't you like to be part of that? Visit our website to see how you can be part of that journey to recreate Britain's first mainline diesel locomotive.
I think that was great in the end. There's something called a snake slice or something, but what looked inside it more looked like dog food than steak. Oh, what happened? I'm okay actually. We want to bring all boxes in with the shirts and whatnot in.
I think we can do.
No, everybody wants one and got them.
Yeah.
my name is Paul Etherington. I'm one of the trustees and engineering staff here at Worksworth, working on LMS 10,000 project, the locomotive that should have never have been scrapped in the first place. Welcome to work.
I think stronger than it, aren't they?
What?
I was going to, but they wanted too much money for it. And if we were a full, proper trader,
I'm the same.
I
just wanted to make sure
it might have been okay.
So what
But
I'll
do this about going to the
Hello, my name is Paul Etherington. I'm one of the trustees and engineering staff here at Worksworth, working on LMS 10,000 project, the locomotive that should have never have been scrapped in the first place. Welcome to Worksworth. Here at our workshop in Worksworth, there has been lots of hours work made to make the place as safe and as usable as possible. We've increased our storage space with our excellent lockers to store electrical equipment in till such time as we can start to rebuild the cubicle as well as other items. Here we have the gear cases out of the AGM 2 bogies currently being overhauled to standard on a bench that we have fabricated out of the leftover parts of a 56 cubicle. In the background you can see our lifting beam, which is certified and tested for 3 tons and is very useful for moving things safely around our workshop, as well as behind it our telehandler, which has been a magnificent tool in helping us strip down the 58. This is the power unit that came out of 56104, which was very kindly gifted to us by GBRF and Progress Rail. This is our spare power unit if we were ever to go mainline. It is a low hours power unit and as you can see is in very good condition. We intend to derate the power unit for future use if we were to go mainline proof for our spares. Also with this power unit came many electrical components that are vital to the rebuild process. These components have been removed from a 56 cubicle and are currently being assessed for future use in the 58 electrical cubicle. As the work progresses, we will learn more of what cost is involved within the cubicle works. We are confident that we have enough spares to future-proof LMS 10,000 for many years on the Heritage Railway, what we have already procured. But there will still be parts that we will have to purchase in time. This is the cubicle that came from 58022, which is currently being worked by engineers. It will be overhauled to standard, utilising many parts gifted to us by GBRF and Progress Rail from the 69 programme. This will eventually become the beating heart of the locomotive, transmitting the power to the traction motors. This is a Reval vacuum exhauster under overhaul. As you can see, there are very many individual components to it, and we still require to procure vanes that go inside the rotor. This is the box for the transformer for the battery charging circuit that will be used on LMS 10,000. This is the battery charger unit itself. These are just some of the components expertly rebuilt by some of our volunteers. Here we have two ex-EM2 bogies, the underpinning part of this project. Both bogies have survived in this country as spare parts for the EM2 Locomotive Society, and these bogies were no longer required. These bogies are in pretty good condition considering their age, but will require a lot of expenditure to bring them up to the standards required to run on heritage railways. We are currently working on the bogies. Bogie 139 has currently had its traction motors removed and is under assessment by railway experts as well as ourselves. We've managed to strip the traction motors out of 139 using careful working procedures to ensure no breakages occur, nobody gets hurt and nothing gets damaged, and we've been 100% successful in our aims in doing so. The next few steps on Bogie 139 involves parts purchased from the Netherlands. These expensive parts have come to us thanks to the 1502 group in Holland, where we need to raise around £15,000 to purchase the parts and to pay for their repatriation to this country. The parts include 3 overhaul traction motors, ex-Tilburg works, a large quantity of bogie spares unused, pins, bracketry, manganese liners to save but a few, and these will save us hundreds of thousands of pounds in the big scheme of things. With this we need your help to fund the project to return these parts to the UK imminently. This bogie is currently having its slack adjusters removed to assess their future suitability in service. The next steps will be to remove the springing, as all this has to be replaced. We will be purchasing new springs to the diagram for LMS 10,000. We will then have to remove each wheel set and overhaul each wheel set. Currently this cost is an unknown, but we will start the process by jacking the bogie frame up, removing the wheel set to estimate how much tyre life we have left on them, and to assess the axle boxes and what work is required on those to return those to full health. This is one of the axle boxes on an EM2 bogie. As can be seen, these are currently all being cleaned out of all grease and being inspected and cleaned prior to UAT exam. Once UAT exam has been undertaken, we will have a further understanding on how much finance is required to return these wheel sets to operable condition. Over the last 12 months, lots of this space has been utilised for purchasing new parts for the project. with the money kindly donated by all the volunteers and members and public alike. Here we have 3 Davies and Metcalf compressors, X56 we purchased earlier on this year. We've got one that's fully overhauled, one that requires overhaul and one for spare. We're actively seeking more, but this gets us away for an air brake locomotive, an air brake system. Here we have behind me 3 traction motors that were removed out of bogie 139. These 3 traction motors will be sent away in due course for assessment for the works required to overhaul them to once again pull a train under LMS 10,000. This will be an expensive undertaking and only possible with the help of the donors and the membership and the volunteers alike. This is the chassis for LMS 10,000. This chassis came from 58022, which was carefully stripped down in Worksworth Yard last summertime. It was then lifted and placed inverted on this sturgeon wagon for works to commence. We are currently making this chassis a safe working environment for all our volunteers to take part in this monumental step towards recreating 10,000. If you ever wondered what a 58 looked like underneath, this is it. All the traction cabling's been carefully removed and pulled back, and we are busy looking at fitting adapter plates to enable the M2 bogies to fit. They will fit in this position here and be simple steel plate machined to fit on the existing bogie centre pivot and pick up its new position, which will be around here. Here is the centre of the locomotive. Here we will be fitting steel plates to recreate the aesthetic appearance of LMS 10,000 and to fit the battery boxes too. So it will recreate the aesthetical appearance of the original locomotive when it was in service. These are the traction motor blower ducts, which are very cleverly incorporated into the main frame of the chassis. These will be utilised again with the EM2 bogies. However, we will have to alter the orientation of where these ports sit to pick up the access points on the EM2 bogies and the EM2 traction motors. All the bracketry and layout of this chassis will remain the same as it was under the 58. The fuel tank will be cut down in size and it will utilise its original bracketry to fit once again. The fuel tank will be out of sight between the 2 battery boxes, but all the design work for all the conduits, cable runs, bracketry and fuel tank have already been done and passed muster and worked for 30 years on British Railways and abroad. This is where the electrical connections will exit from the top of the chassis through its original portholes feeding either bogie from one end of the locomotive to the other. This pipework will be modified. The pipes will be chopped in this area and new pipework will be substituted for this old pipework, and the bracketry will be put closer to the chassis, which will keep all the services pipework underneath the tumble home of the bodywork of LMS 10,000. "2023 promises to be another year of steady progress within the Society. We have 3 key main aspects to concentrate on this year. One being the purchase and repatriation of the bogie spares from Holland. 2 is to overhaul bogie 139 to mainline standards. 3 is to work on the chassis towards its adaptation and what's required for it to run on the main line. The excellent progress made so far has only been possible with your help and the help of the volunteers and everybody involved with this project. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody that's given any of their time, information or finance to assist us achieving our goals. If anyone has anything to give the Society in experience knowledge or help, please feel free to get in touch to join us to recreate LMS 10,000. Thank you. Hello, my name is Paul Etherington. I'm one of the trustees and engineering staff here at Worksworth, working on LMS 10,000 project, at the locomotive that should have never have been scrapped in the first place. Welcome to Worksworth. Here at our workshop in Worksworth, there has been lots of hours work made to make the place as safe and as usable as possible. We've increased our storage space with our excellent lockers to store electrical equipment in, till such time as we can start to rebuild the cubicle as well as other items. Here we have the gear cases out of the AGM 2 bogies currently being overhauled to standard on a bench that we have fabricated out of the leftover parts of a 56 cubicle. In the background you can see our lifting beam, which is certified and tested for 3 tons and is very useful for moving things safely around our workshop. As well as behind it our telehandler, which has been a magnificent tool in helping us strip down the 58. This is the power unit that came out of 56104, which was very kindly gifted to us by GBRF and Progress Rail. This is our spare power unit if we were ever to go mainline. It is a low hours power unit and as you can see is in very good condition. We intend to derate the power unit for future use if we were to go mainline and future proof for our spares. Also with this power unit came many electrical components that are vital to the rebuild process. These components have been removed from a 56 cubicle and are currently being assessed for future use in the 58 electrical cubicle. As the work progresses, we will learn more of what cost is involved within the cubicle works. We are confident that we have enough spares to future-proof LMS 10,000 for many years on the Heritage Railway, what we have already procured. But there will still be parts that we will have to purchase in time. This is the cubicle that came from 58022, which is currently being worked on by our electrical engineers. It will be overhauled to standard, utilising many parts gifted to us by GBRF and Progress Rail from the 69 programme. This will eventually become the beating heart of the locomotive, transmitting the power to the traction motors. This is a Reval vacuum exhauster under overhaul. As you can see, there are very many individual components to it, and we still require to procure vanes that go inside the rotor. This is the box for the transformer for the battery charging circuit that will be used on LMS 10,000. This is the battery charger unit itself. These are just some of the components expertly rebuilt by some of our volunteers. Here we have two ex-EM2 bogies, the underpinning part of this project. Both bogies have survived in this country as spare parts for the EM2 Locomotive Society, and these bogies were no longer required. These bogies are in pretty good condition considering their age, but will require a lot of expenditure to bring them up to the standards required to run on heritage railways. We are currently working on the bogies. Bogie 139 has currently had its traction motors removed and is under assessment by railway experts as well as ourselves. We've managed to strip the traction motors out of 139 using careful working procedures to ensure no breakages occur, nobody gets hurt and nothing gets damaged. And we've been 100% successful in our aims in doing so. The next few steps on Bogie 139 involves parts purchased from the Netherlands. These expensive parts have come to us thanks to the 1502 group in Holland, where we need to raise around £15,000 to purchase the parts and to pay for their repatriation to this country. The parts include 3 overhaul traction motors, ex-Tilburg works, a large quantity of bogie spares unused, pins, bracketry, manganese liners to save but a few, and these will save us hundreds of thousands of pounds in the big scheme of things. With this we need your help to fund the project to return these parts to the UK imminently. This bogie is currently having its slack adjusters removed to assess their future suitability in service. The next steps will be to remove the springing, as all this has to be replaced. We will be purchasing new springs to the diagram for LMS 10,000. We will then have to remove each wheel set and overhaul each wheel set. Currently this cost is an unknown, but we will start the process by jacking the bogie frame up, removing the wheel sets, turning the tyres to estimate how much tyre life we have left on them, and to assess the axle boxes and what work is required on those to return those to full health. This is one of the axle boxes on an EM2 bogie. As can be seen, these are currently all being cleaned out of old grease and being inspected and cleaned prior to UAT exam. Once UAT exam has been undertaken, we will have a further understanding on how much finance is required to return these wheel sets to operable condition. Over the last 12 months, lots of this space has been utilised for purchasing new parts for the project. with the money kindly donated by all the volunteers and members and public alike. Here we have 3 Davies and Metcalf compressors, X56 we purchased earlier on this year. We've got one that's fully overhauled, one that requires overhaul and one for spare. We're actively seeking more, but this gets us away for an air brake locomotive, an air brake system. Here we have behind me 3 traction motors that were removed out of bogie 139. These 3 traction motors will be sent away in due course for assessment for the works required to overhaul them to once again pull a train under LMS 10,000. This will be an expensive undertaking and only possible with the help of the donors and the membership and the volunteers alike. This is the chassis for LMS 10,000. This chassis came from 58022, which was carefully stripped down in Worksworth Yard last summertime. It was then lifted and placed inverted on this sturgeon wagon for works to commence. We are currently making this chassis a safe working environment for all our volunteers to take part in this monumental step towards recreating 10,000. If you ever wondered what a 58 looked like underneath, this is it. All the traction cabling's been carefully removed and pulled back, and we are busy looking at fitting adapter plates to enable the M2 bogies to fit. They will fit in this position here and be simple steel plate machined to fit on the existing bogie centre pivot and pick up its new position, which will be around here. Here is the centre of the locomotive. Here we will be fitting steel plates to recreate the aesthetic appearance of LMS 10,000 and to fit the battery boxes too. So it will recreate the aesthetical appearance of the original locomotive when it was in service. These are the traction motor blower ducts, which are very cleverly incorporated into the main frame of the chassis. These will be utilised again with the EM2 bogies. However, we will have to alter the orientation of where these ports sit to pick up the access points on the EM2 bogies and the EM2 traction motors. All the bracketry and layout of this chassis will remain the same as it was under the 58. The fuel tank will be cut down in size and it will utilise its original bracketry to fit once again. The fuel tank will be out of sight between the 2 battery boxes, but all the design work for all the conduits, cable runs, bracketry and fuel tank have already been done and passed muster and worked for 30 years on British Railways and abroad. This is where the electrical connections will exit from the top of the chassis through its original portholes feeding either bogie from one end of the locomotive to the other. This pipework will be modified. The pipes will be chopped in this area and new pipework will be substituted for this old pipework, and the bracketry will be put closer to the chassis, which will keep all the services pipework underneath the tumble home of the bodywork of LMS 10,000. "2023 promises to be another year of steady progress within the Society. We have 3 key main aspects to concentrate on this year. One being the purchase and repatriation of the bogie spares from Holland. 2 is to overhaul bogie 139 to mainline standards. 3 is to work on the chassis towards its adaptation and what's required for it to run on the main line. The excellent progress made so far has only been possible with your help and the help of the volunteers and everybody involved with this project. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody that's given any of their time, information or finance to assist us achieving our goals. If anyone has anything to give the Society in experience knowledge or help, please feel free to get in touch to join us to recreate LMS 10,000. Thank you.
At one time, Britain was one of the world leaders in pioneering locomotive design and development. Right from the early days of railways, innovation and development led to new locomotives that were more powerful and faster, delivering on the demands that society placed upon them. In 1947, the London, Midland and Scottish Railway rolled out the next major development in motive power, 10,000. Designed, developed and built in only 2 years, the locomotive was rolled out of Derby Works. It set the benchmark against which other diesel locomotive developments would be compared. 10,000, along with its sister 10,001, proved the efficiency and capability of the then new modern traction. The locomotive and its pioneering English electric power unit were the origin of future developments in locomotive design, some of which still operate on the main line today. In fact, many diesel locomotives that were designed and built in Britain can trace their ancestry to the twins, as they became known. Unfortunately, both locomotives were scrapped before the preservation movement had fully formed, and so the original locomotive was lost forever. Or so you would think. In 2011, the Ivat Diesel Recreation Society was formed with the aim of bringing back Britain's pioneering locomotive 10,000. While seemingly an impossible task, on closer inspection all the ingredients were available in one form or another. A suitable chassis from the same lineage in the form of a Class 58. bogies from a scrapped Class 77 that are an evolved form of those developed for 10,000. A power unit of the same type and vintage with very low running hours on the clock that was made available. Many English electric equipment and components are still readily available in the wider spares pool. Today the Society has gathered a great momentum with new contacts made in the rail industry, invaluable support from our host railway, and our much appreciated supporters, members and volunteers. Without their help we would not be in the position we are now, with the donor chassis, same type bogies and power unit, plus many other components and fittings that will lead to a recreated 10,000. We are now reaching the crucial point where the heavy engineering begins. The donor class 58 being reduced to a chassis to enable enhancements made to interface with the bogies. The bogies are being prepared for overhaul. The power unit is being taken to a specialist for work, and the many accumulated components are being overhauled in the workshop, ready for assembly into 10,000. We are now in an era where Britain can no longer design, develop or build its own mainline locomotives. So wouldn't it be great to showcase what is possible when we work together with the same pioneering spirit that produced 10,000? Imagine 10,000 making visits to railways across the country, pulling trains of the same period and inspiring the next generation of rail enthusiasts and rail industry pioneers. A shining example of Britain's once great railway engineering capability. Now wouldn't you like to be part of that? Visit our website to see how you can be part of that journey to recreate Britain's first mainline diesel locomotive. At one time, Britain was one of the world leaders in pioneering locomotive design and development. Right from the early days of railways, innovation and development led to new locomotives that were more powerful and faster, delivering on the demands that society placed upon them. In 1947, the London, Midland and Scottish Railway rolled out the next major development in motive power, 10,000. Designed, developed and built in only 2 years, the locomotive was rolled out of Derby Works. It set the benchmark against which other diesel locomotive development would be compared. 10,000, along with its sister 10,001, proved the efficiency and capability of the then new modern traction. The locomotive and its pioneering English electric power unit were the origin of future developments in locomotive design, some of which still operate on the main line today. In fact, many diesel locomotives that were designed and built in Britain can trace their ancestry to the twins, as they became known. Unfortunately, both locomotives were scrapped before the preservation movement had fully formed, and so the original locomotive was lost forever. Or so you would think. In 2011, the Ivat Diesel Recreation Society was formed, with the aim of bringing back Britain's pioneering locomotive 10,000. While seemingly an impossible task, on closer inspection, all the ingredients were available in one form or another. A suitable chassis from the same lineage, in the form of a Class 58. Bogies from a scrapped Class 77 that are in evolved form of those developed for 10,000. A power unit of the same type and vintage with very low running hours on the clock that was made available. Many English electric equipment and components are still readily available in the wider spares pool. Today the Society has gathered a great momentum with new contacts made in the rail industry, invaluable support from our host railway and our much appreciated supporters, members and volunteers. Without their help we would not be in the position we are now, with the donor chassis, same type bogies and power unit, plus many other components and fittings that will lead to a recreated 10,000. We are now reaching the crucial point where the heavy engineering begins. The donor Class 58 being reduced to a chassis to enable enhancements made to interface with the bogies. The bogies are being prepared for overhaul. The power unit is being taken to a specialist for work, and the many accumulated components are being overhauled in the workshop, ready for assembly into 10,000. We are now in an era where Britain can no longer design, develop or build its own mainline locomotives, so wouldn't it be great to showcase what is possible when we work together with the same pioneering spirit that produced 10,000? Imagine 10,000 making visits to railways across the country, pulling trains of the same period and inspiring the next generation of rail enthusiasts and rail industry pioneers. A shining example of Britain's once great railway engineering capability. Now wouldn't you like to be part of that? Visit our website to see how you can be part of that journey to recreate Britain's first mainline diesel locomotive.
bear with us for about 10 minutes or so and we'll begin.
When he arrives, he can talk to us. But he's scheduled to be number 10 on the agenda anyway, so should be okay.
Yeah, his train is currently past Sheffield, so it's on its way.
How far past Sheffield?
5
Not
minutes
20
to
minutes away.
Chesterfield. He's fine. He'll get it before he needs to talk. Alan, can you tell if anybody's watching the live stream?
We have 7.
Okay. One of which is me.
One of which is you.
Right.
We're going to use the flip chart and draw a cartoon of Paul.
All don't look right in clean overalls. No.
I'm sure they weren't clean for long.
He had new gloves as well.
That's well the safety catalogue, isn't it?
That's what that Mark was thinking of putting on the coach boards.
Yeah.
And when he saw that, he thought that would go well.
They forward up the Unistruct at work. We can use. We're going to put some racks in the container for it.
Oh, right.
Okay, yeah. So all our brake rubber is just cleaned and put apart and like.
Yeah.
Just
shows how much work has gone on.
Yeah, ready to.
Yeah.
As and when we need it. Kicking them out of the floor.
Yeah, all right. Yeah,
So you can get some. There's some more work you can have it. Well, that's Maddie Paul with his trailer.
Remember to take some leaflets and I've got tickets to go to the Flying Scotsman event at Doncaster.
Okay.
I'll hand a few of them out.
Yeah, because the way on the floor. Wasn't funny, like, yeah. Especially when it's taking you off the bogey again. Yeah.
I've even persuaded Maria to go. Only my dad wants to go. So.
I go all this foot to land, work on the soul and
See if an old
put
train
them together. Actually, that way you probably start one off something.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been
That might have been me.
I've seen another book today, but didn't buy it at the time.
we got 3 boiler control units.
Locomotive design of the LMS, and there's a chapter on diesels with reference to 10,000 and 10,001. Next time I see it, it's not going to disappear. It pops up occasionally. I'll get it.
Tarpaulin, don't we?
Yeah, I think it's at the edge hunt.
Yeah.
The heart of it is that post office relay plan.
You think it's maybe a huge one?
I've got all.
I think so, yeah.
How far is it past
Right.
Sheffield now?
Pretty much better support and
Don't know.
yeah, big question of trusses or something.
I've got everything.
What time do you leave Sheffield? Say
It's not on the screen
Oh, it's not on
anymore.
the screen.
Yeah.
8 minutes past. No, Sheffield.
Probably enough there to do it.
Chesterfield is 8 minutes past.
Just probably doesn't more than
Right, so past Chesterfield.
It's 20 minutes.
It's Derby at 31. But if we begin at 10 past, we'll
Yeah,
be okay
it'll
from
be
talking.
fine.
stick to the timber. Just stop it over.
I want to be on that all the way down to Plymouth.
They really want to reach out, like, everything run back it.
Yesterday the trains were up to 51 minutes late because a lorry went straight through a level crossing barrier at Almouth. So that was great. My train was only 15 minutes late, but there was like a queue of them just at every signal.
Was every 14 minutes and I'm sure the laws have changed. So it's quite a lot to keep it going.
Start in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Really, if you want to use it, you need it to be located, get in to check, so don't get down.
Well, we've got a viewer from the USA. Hello, John. He says he wishes the loco was available in N-gauge. I thought it was available, but
You
maybe
can-
Not in ready to run.
not in ready to run.
No.
Right, okay.
No, you
I
have
think there's
to buy
a
a
resin.
have to buy a class 37 and stick a different body on it.
Okay.
Why don't we think of that?
If you look back in some of the notes from quite early on, that was one of the options.
Yeah. Different length, etc.
Yes.
Mm.
Andrew, was there something online telling people that we'll start soon? Because
Oh yes. Ah, right. Well, Tony did announce it, and they were watching.
yeah, but
Um,
if people are dialing in, they might, I don't know if you can put a comment up. Yeah.
With a timer.
Some of the most annoying ones that I dial into.
There we go. That's mentioned.
On here,
Yeah.
176.
That's,
Oh, yeah.
6. Yes. Yes, it should be 6.
Right. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I should have left my phone on after all, shouldn't I?
No. Just seeing what it should be.
so there's Scott, the luckiest man alive. He went from a stage of winning everything.
Ah, good Scott, yeah.
I'm thinking it should have been, or near that.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
the 4 has been missed off the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
For those who are avidly following Paul's progress, he's seated at the platform at Chesterfield at the minute. So he will be with us shortly.
Right, well, it's 10 past. I think we'll make a start, shall we?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Right, I'm Tony Ellishaw, chairman of this group, and I'd like to welcome you all to the 2023 AGM. We have here Andrew Hoseason, who is the secretary, and Michael Prince, who is deputy treasurer. Yeah. Okay, Andrew, we got any apologies?
Yes, we do. I'm glad you asked me that question. Yeah, we've got apologies from Ian Forsdyke, Mark Hambley, Tim Apthorpe, Peter Scott, Robert Harris, John Glover, Nick Cotton and Hanson Hay.
Okay.
Yeah, Tony Bennett at the list,
Right.
please.
Tony Bennett, yeah.
Okay, and an apology from Paul Etherington, who should be sitting here. As we said, he's still on the train coming. Right. Minutes of the AGM held on the 8th of October last year.
About a week ago we supplied copies of last year's minutes. I trust that members did get those within the email. Is there anything arising for those that need to be discussed? Let me check whether anybody online says yes. Can we have someone to propose that those minutes were correct, those who read them? Right, Phil will. Yeah. And a seconder, if we've got, Tony Tate. The only thing that we need to raise from that was that we had decided to explore giving donors from many years back an opportunity, an exclusive opportunity, and the one we were exploring was to visit the place in Lincoln where our power unit is. That's still our idea, but the place there has been so busy that they couldn't readily entertain visits. But we're looking at finding a slot and then inviting everyone. So that's the only matter arising from those minutes from last year's meeting. Back to Tony.
Okay, right. Now you need an annual report from me. It'll be brief because the different people, the treasurer, the engineering guys, are going to do their own thing. So I'll just do my brief views of the shed, of the where we are for the whole year. I must admit I've not been able to donate as much time as I should do to this due to changes of circumstances since last Christmas, but we're getting there. As you know, we have the workshop at Wirksworth, which has been, I think, a godsend for the group to be able to do restoration tasks. We're making good use of it, refurbishing brake parts off the bogies, rebuilding the electrical cubicle. Having a building though comes with its own issues, which Tony has addressed, and I'll go into more detail later on. He's taken the role of a health and safety person, and he's trying to get us all into shape to do things properly. As I say, I'll talk about that later on. We quickly found that the shed wasn't big enough for what we wanted, so we purchased two lorry containers, which are again getting near full of bits and pieces. But it means as we can strip the bogies, we can lock parts that we don't need immediately away in there.
One of those was financed by a donation from one of the members,
was,
so thank
it
you for
was,
that.
yes. And the railway are quite happy with, as far as I know, with them being there. As I mentioned, the electrical cubicle has been had a lot of work through a dedicated team on Tuesdays, doing work on that, which Andrew will talk about later on. Since the chassis was lifted and turned over, that was in That was last year's, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was. Yeah. Not a lot of work has been undertaken on that, so we've allowed the railway to put it back down to the head shunt so that it's out of their way. They will bring it back as and when we need them to, but it's fine. We're having trouble keeping it weatherproof, but we're working on that now. We've not been to so many galas this year, taking the display stand and the big banner. A, because I haven't had time to do it really, but we're finding that you see the same people at each gala, and so it's the actual benefits of doing it kind of decrease. But it's a weekend away, so we will continue doing it. We were at the Severn Valley Railway last weekend for 4 days, and a month ago we were at the Gloucester and Warwickshire Railway. And you do talk to a lot of people. There is a lot of interest in this group and this project, and a lot of people are very generous, which always makes me feel quite humble. I think I'll finish there, and we'll do the more in-depth talks, and then if you've got any questions or anything comes into my mind, we'll talk about it at the end, if that's okay with you. So the first one is Treasurer's Report.
Myself, yes.
Yes, which in Tony Brown's absence Michael is going to do.
Right, well, the accounts relating on here for 2022 calendar year. See the figures there. We are doing quite healthy money, and we've got the basically money's just coming in generally with donations, subscriptions, membership sort of things. Nice amount coming in from the HMRC. Thank you everybody who's signed up for gift aid. That brings in a useful amount. Some of the outgoings, we had quite a lot, mainly for buying parts and transportation and lifting of things, hire of cranes and hire of transport lorries and things like that, which is mainly that. Generally our regular outgoings is rent for the workshop, and just sundries, media payments, which Andrew sort of helps sort through, magazine, keep us fresh in the public's eye, and that's pretty much it. There's not a lot really to say. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to go and try and answer those.
I suppose one question I have is, obviously we do advertising and we publish in the various magazines and that.
Yeah.
Do we, I know this question has been asked before, but has the advertising brought in more...
Like a cost benefit balance.
That's it.
We do look at that. I think it does bring in, because I notice when we have an advert, we do see some of the donations come in, so it certainly covers all the costs. But
I think
more
almost
than
every
covers.
advert we've ever done has gained us some money.
Yes.
Brilliant, that's good. Yeah.
We certainly don't lose anything on it.
Yeah.
Definitely don't lose anything.
The main reason for the adverts is to keep the budget within the public eye
Yes,
as well.
that's brilliant.
So there's one more question.
Yes. I was wondering why with the gift aid it's only gone up by about 6% from the previous year, whereas the total income has gone up by about 40%.
I think the gift aid sort of usually relates to a little bit earlier, and I mean, where's it gone now? Gift aid. I'm not too sure, to be honest, why it's only gone up that much. We've got a substantial amount more this year. there is a time lag with
Yeah.
with some of it, which is most of, I think that was the reason why I'm having to think back from last year. So, because obviously the year the gift aid relates to the year before that we have to go and get it, and so obviously income was a lot less then.
And I think it was down to Bernard
It was Bernard
in
who sorted it, wasn't it?
2021 in really investigating the gift aid and sort of accounting for every penny and saying, you know, we'll have that. So it might be skewed a little bit because of that, because we effectively did 2 years in 2021. You know.
Very good.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
Right. You need a secretary.
Yeah. Right.
Okay, the next one is election of officers.
Okay, number 6 on the agenda. This is fairly straightforward because we've not had any new proposals, and so should be a formality. The way we're going to do that is to take a vote within the room and within members online. So for everybody who's watching on YouTube, if you can type yes or no when I raise the question of each person being continuing in the roles.
Well,
So-
we have got a quorum, haven't we? I'm fairly certain we have, but
Aha. Yes.
Ah,
sorry to raise that. It just
yes.
Yes, just.
just
Okay.
and when Tony arrives, we will. If not Paul arrives, we will.
Right, so the first thing, we'd like to continue Tony in his role as chair. And so all in favour, please raise your hands or put yes in YouTube.
Well, thank you.
Sorry, Tony.
I thought you lot were my friends.
And we're getting yeses on YouTube, so that's good. Thank you. Oh, there's somebody else to add to the list as being in the meeting. That's good. Right. Tony, do you want to ask for that one for me?
We need yeses and nos for keeping Andrew as secretary. Would you like to do a show of hands?
And a yes or no on the online.
And yes or no online for Andrew?
Let's have a look. Again, Paul, yes, we're getting all yeses there. Thank you.
Okay.
No no's. The final one in this one is treasurer. At this stage, and we're going to be talking a bit more about this later, but Tony Brown is treasurer, and we will vote to continue him in the job. Yeses or no's, please raise your hand or say yes.
Unanimous again?
Very good.
Here.
It's all fairly plain sailing when you don't have added extras, isn't it? It's a bit complicated when you have 2 or 3 candidates for each role. On to the next one.
Okay.
The next one is just confirmation of roles. Now this, we don't need a vote on this from Charity Commission perspective, but we're looking at the role of Cocoa Club Administrator, which is Bernard, who's at the back there. Bernard, you're still happy to pester me with requests for information and do all that good work?
Yeah, I'm also keen that we promote it a bit more.
Yep.
It's been very steady. There's a steady, I think it's 53 or so,
Mm-hmm.
if I remember correctly. It would be good to get some more people involved.
Perhaps you'd like to say a word about that at the end. That's up to you. We also have health and safety, which is Tony Thompson here. And Tony, you're happy to keep in the role for another year?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We don't need a vote about those things, so the trustees are happy for these gentlemen to continue in the role. So that's great. Over to you again.
Right. That's the end of
Yes.
people, isn't it?
Correct.
Are we keeping the gift aid separate to the Treasurer's general thing, which Bernard has done in the past and Michael has done bits for? Are we going to make that a specific role?
Well, we could make that a specific role if you want to just acknowledge that at this time. Yeah.
It makes things clearer and
Yeah.
Okay, so also under number 7, Bernard also does collation of gift aid, which is quite a big task, almost as big as collating donations. Bernard, you're also happy to continue in that for the next year? Thank you, Bernard. Okay.
Right. So are we going to item 8 then?
Yes.
Right. Andrew, it's down to you, sir.
Yeah.
Because Paul's not here.
Yeah, we'll
Just-
turn him around.
Just anonymous for the moment.
Just want to come into this
Okay,
middle
yes,
seat
I'll do
here.
that, that's fine. You want to
We're
look it
gonna
up on
get
the
you this
screen?
thing ready.
Can you see with me sitting here?
All right, sitting here so I can see what's going on. Right, start that
It
up.
froze.
Right. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm giving a brief report on the electrical engineering activities, which basically this stage have consisted of electrical control units. So we can have the next slide. We have the premises of the electrical controls are the electrical cubicle, which has come from class 58022. We have a picture of it here, as it was at Rosalie South, and in there is a picture, as much as we could get, of the cubicle. And what you can't see there is the amount of coal dust that's on it. You know, it's several centimetres thick in various places. So the whole loco was then moved to Worksworth, and over time we removed the cubicle from there and it was moved into the workshop. Next slide, please. Also, we were very lucky to get a donation of a class 56 electrical cubicle. Now, this is a much cleaner cubicle with the equipment in it in probably better condition. However, the big problem you can see here, because this is the class 56 cubicle and that's a class 58 cubicle, which has got a sloping top. So the 58 will fit inside the outline of the new locomotive, whereas this one wouldn't. So we then stripped this unit down. You can see the bits and pieces there, but we didn't waste everything, because one of our colleagues here managed to take the enclosure and convert it into 3 very sensible workbenches for working on all the other bits of mechanical equipment. So nothing was wasted, it's all been tagged and stored and moved away. So going back to the 58, we inspected it, made a note of what we'd got, what was in what position, and then started stripping it down. Quite a lot of bits were missing. There's a complete section here, which are the multi-case circuit breakers, fuses, that was completely stripped out, and it had been done by cutting the wires off. So that means those parts will need a completely new electrical loom. But also there may be 1 or 2 alterations in the way the circuits are used in the new loco compared with the old one. So we're moving forward on that. The electronics rack is basically sound. The wiring on it was good, but the terminals were shocking. And the relay panels, most of the relays were there. The wiring was pretty well intact, but there are quite a few timer relays and odd bits and pieces missing. From there we started stripping down. The resistors came out, the relays came out, the rear contactors all came out, the electronics rack all came out. You can see the electronics rack there, the wires have been taken off the terminals, some came off cleanly, some snapped, but we identified where each wire was, so that when we put it back together, we got an easier job. We then decided to give it a power wash, because I said there was so much coal dust on it, and lo and behold, we gave it a good wash, and half the paint came off inside. The outside paint was fine, but they couldn't have primed the inside paint very well. So what we had to do next was strip it all down, put rust preventive on it, and then we from there primed it with the universal green primer, and went on. Sorry, yes, please. Sorry, to repaint it. You see, in this case, we carefully wrapped up all the wiring looms, moved them out of the way, and moved them round and round, and managed to get a primer coat on and 2 coats of top coat on the inside, so that we could progress things. We made a choice here, and this may be contentious, to do it on the old, what we believe English electric style was. It was basically white on the inside and the light battleship or Admiralty grey on the outside. We thought that was, toning it down slightly the way things could go, but we know it's obviously not original. Okay? So the next big job we've got, which is ongoing, is, as I mentioned, we have wiring diagrams, we have wiring harness runs, but we don't have any schematic diagrams that we've really found that make sense yet. So using those diagrams, a lot of decoding went on by various people, and as we take a wire off, we tag it to say where it's come from, what the wire number was originally, and where it's going. Some of these are intact, we can use them, and they, we go end to end, and if they've got 2 terminals on there, we think they're going to go back to those terminals, we'll say, right, we can use that piece of wire. If we've got a terminal that's at one end and someone's cut it short at the other end, we're marking that to say, no, that wire will have to be replaced by the proper new wire. So it's an ongoing job with a number of spreadsheets, plenty of photographs, and plenty of labelling of all the wires to go through. So we're carrying on from that, and it's quite a long job, that. Okay, the terminals that the wires went to, some were in extremely poor condition. These are the terminals that are on side this electronics rack we're coming to, and about 10% of these just snapped off. They were that rusty, even with a gentle torque, they just went ping. So we know that all that lot we'll have to replace with new threaded rod at the very least if we can't get new terminals, so that's another way to go for the future. We've done a very good job on the electronics rack, which is steel and cast aluminium framework. That's come up pretty nicely. The wiring loom itself is in remarkable condition, so we've got a question mark about the plugs and sockets if they're going to be fit for use or not, but it does look, hopefully, as we can get that restored fairly quickly. So going forward, as I said, we've got to identify and mark up all the miles, we've got to remove all the main terminals and finish painting the entire enclosure. We've then got a big job to test components, refurbish, select and replace, and catalogue everything that we think we might be wanting to use in the future. That's dependent upon getting some more test information, building ourselves test rigs to make sure that everything we use will be fit for purpose, not only now but in the future. So that's really quite a big job. Marking up all the wires, as I said, and then from there we've got other items of electrical equipment. We've got the battery chargers, and then obviously we come on later on to the power electronics, the bridges, the thyristor control stacks, and the alternator cabinets. We have actually done quite a bit of prior work on the electronics modules to do a preliminary test, and they've gone off, and several have been certified as fit for use. So that will stand us in good stead later on. And that's really all the work we've done. We're very welcome for anyone to join us. We're only a small team of less than half a dozen people, and it's quite a tall order, so we're very helpful for anyone to come. Right, thank you very much indeed. Any questions? Nothing come up online?
Nope.
Right, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Paul is wandering around outside.
I thought
I saw something go past.
Paul, are you there?
Aha!
There's a bloke here. Seen him before. Is this new bloke? Hey. How are you?
We're good.
Go and have a seat, Paul.
It's an excellent train service we have.
It needs a good engine, that's what it needs.
Right. Item 9. Get your breath back. Get a cup of tea. Health and safety report, drafted by young Tony here. He's given me some bullet points, and I'm going to expand on some of them and say what we've been doing health and safety wise to get ourselves into a good position really for working in the shed. There's some things that we've had to do which are legal, I suppose, yes. Some things we've done to make life easier for ourselves. So I'll read through this in the order that Tony's written it. We've installed emergency lighting, which is that sort of thing. I mean, our shed is not a tremendously sized building, but we've put, I think, 4 of those lights in. And we test them monthly just to make sure they're all right and just to make sure they switch on. We test them yearly to make sure they stay illuminated on the batteries for 3 hours, I think the legal thing is. Alongside that, we did have a pedestrian walkway marked out through the building, but where we put the lights meant that this could be better, so we've repainted the floor to give a better walkway and a better escape route. On that, no, it comes later. The fire extinguishers have all been mounted correctly. They again are inspected on a regular basis. And we have done a fire risk assessment produced in March. From that risk assessment, we produced an action plan which is 48% complete, but there's still a load of things to do on that. Some of them are quite fundamental. Like we've got a door at one end of the shed and there's no way out at the other. So I think legally we should have a fire exit at the other end of the building. Yeah. As we don't own the building, we've got to get hold of British Rail, I think it is, Network Rail, and see if they'll let us chop a hole in the other end. If we do that, there are also security considerations because you're having another access to control, but we're still looking at that. We have a full set of first aid equipment, the first aid box, eye wash station, what else is
Burns
there?
kit.
Burns kit, yes. All there. Again, they're regularly inspected and we have to renew them every 12 months or so, or 2 years.
There's a sell-by date on
Yeah.
equipment.
Yes, I mean, how do you have a sell-by date on a bandage? I don't quite understand it, but there you go. So that we've created a register of the ladders, which seemed a little bit strange at the time, but now I understand it. Tony's inspected them, and 2 of our original ladders we've had to throw away. Well, they've been recycled for something else. So we had to buy 2 new ladders, and I think it was Toolstation, wasn't it? Toolstation.
So,
Yeah, we got them from there. They had an offer on, so I thought, right, we'll have these, and we bought 2 new ladders. Cost us 250 quid, I think, for them. We've also circulated a document to the regular working members about the use of ladders, and make sure all the things that are to you and I are common sense, but we've got to make ourselves squeaky clean as we work and do everything by the book, because if we were to have any accident or whatever, it could come down heavily on us. So we've got to, anybody that comes into the workshop to work, we've got to go through these safety procedures with them. We've also instigated a buddy system, whereas on some days there are not many people there and you can be working on your own. So if you are, we've set it up so that you text somebody every half an hour or every hour, depending on what you're doing, just to say, yes, I'm still here, the sky's not fallen on my head or whatever, which I think is a good thing. We've also instigated a pre-job hazard assessment, and there's copies of that on the health and safety notice board, which we've created. The health and safety policy in general was revised in August 2023 and distributed to working members. We've also, I'm going to say touch wood, I think it's probably wood, we haven't had an accident, and I don't think we've had a near miss, really, but we have the forms in the office for those. We're either very good or just not very good at recording stuff, but you know, I think if
we're very good.
We're very good. Yeah, let's leave it at that. And finally, all the electrical items, all 130, I think, from memory, something like that. They were all pack tested in the spring, so the insulation and everything is all good on that. We even tested bits of kit that people bring into the workshop to do their job, their own kit. So health and safety is looking quite good. Seeing what Tony's done this year, which I thank him for, makes me feel how bad we were in the first 2 years we were there. It's I think it's a necessary evil. We've got to cover ourselves on this sort of thing. So that's it. If anybody has any specific concerns, we can raise them, or just come and see Tony or I, and we will discuss them. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
You got your breath back?
Just about.
Right. Okay.
Afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all. Sorry, my apologies for being late. It's cross-country trains are about that were thinking I've got here.
We've been following you on real-time trains.
Yeah. Yeah, what a squeeze getting on that it was. Yeah, we've had engineering-wise, I'm not going to try and tread over anything here. Our health and safety is improving year in, year out, and the way we're going, we'll carry on improving. As long as we don't put the ball down with our Tony here, we won't. But from an engineering perspective, it's been a fantastic year, fantastic year of achievements. We got that unexpected gift early on in the year by Progress Rail and GBRF, and we now have 5 alternators. Yes, we've got 2 absolute cracking alternators that we know 100% work out of those 5, plus lots of spares. We've got all sorts of other equipment out of them, which were very generously received, and no doubt will help us and help Drew and Graham and Derek and everybody else move forward with the project. We also have the Mark 1 sat at IMPS, and we currently have to raise £8,000 towards its completion, from changing from a static diesel generator to a fully working power unit with an alternator on. I'm sure that's one thing that we can look to move forward on. over the next few months. At IMPS, we've got 4 alternators sat there taking room up, and we need to have a discussion and decide what we're going to do with these. And obviously spares is absolutely golden, and as 56s have dwindled and been scrapped, there's out of those 5 alternators, nothing at all we should be scrapping. There's very many components on them inside if we were to keep a few, but we need to look at removing some of these out of IMPS as well. Obviously there's 2 there that we know are absolutely spot on, and the one we're going to pick is the one we purchased from UKRL later on last year. We've also got that absolute cracking Ruston engine out of 56104, which we really need to look at winterising. It won't take us long at all, and just to keep it good as a spare where it is. Among all that equipment, we got lube oil pumps, traction motor blowers, we got a hell of a lot of electrical equipment, plus a cubicle which the electrical guys have very quickly disseminated and stored away to build our the art of the locomotive, the electrical cubicle. We also have not sorted out what we're going to do with our Boris generator, which was very kindly donated to us by Hanson, which we've paid for repairing and we ran last year. This is one thing we need to sort out over the next few months, whether we sell it the railway or we actually sell it on elsewhere. It's a valuable bit of kit to somebody out there, and the longer it remains static, the less chance it is of running. So we need to look at that before winter, at least firing it up. Our telehandler's absolutely golden, and it's a perfect bit of kit for moving things around without using too much muscle power. And we're going to need a battery for that over the next few months. I believe so, Tony?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we need to action that very, very shortly.
Yeah.
As the railway has made a request to me the last 24 hours to utilise it to do an engine rebuild on one of their diesel locomotives. So she's going to be busy.
Yeah, I think it goes for 3 or 4 weeks without being started,
Well, it's
and
gonna
I think that's the reason the battery is becoming a problem.
It's going to do it good at the railway using it. Then. We're not going to run into that problem. But after then,
Yes.
we're definitely going to need to purchase a battery.
Yes.
Excellent work's done earlier on this year, cleaning up the our work areas and obviously getting all the safety systems up to speed and access and egress. I can't emphasise how much of a difficult task it is to keep that place workable with its size and with what we have. We've got a lot of equipment, and it's all down to the volunteers and the great work that they do that it remains such a tidy, clear work area, as but a busy one. The work's done on the bogie this year has been absolutely phenomenal, and we've taken lots of advice off our bogie expert Luke, and the Burton lads have sweated long and hard, removing pins and everything else that's heavily seized. But it's moving on, and we're looking at lifting these before too long, after a few more tests are done. It's a principal part of the project, and as we move on now into the planning and building stage, we need to ensure that the bogies are probably the quickest part to turn around to a fully workable item. We don't want to be wasting time by lifting a chassis on and off a pair of bogies. We need a pair of bogies fit for purpose for when the chassis is done and lifted onto it, saving money, everybody's money and time. which is paramount on a project like this, that we don't waste money. Chassis works. Well, earlier on in the year we made it a lot safer. We've still got a way to go. We've still got to make it waterproof, but the walkways are in. A lot of equipment and redundant conduits have been removed, and we need to do a full marking out and dimensional survey of this to actually quantify it against the Doncaster drawings for the Class 58, and to say yes, that's what we need to do, and have it in black and white on our IDRS 10,000 drawing. Earlier on this year, Don Carter completed the chassis calculations, which I have here if anybody wants to look at them, and I'm pleased to say we wasn't a mile away with the draft design of the chassis. There's only minor alterations to take into consideration for what we're about to do to it, which is good. Obviously we need to look at this year completing that dimensional survey and employing a structural design engineer. We already know who's going to do it, who's competent and capable of doing it, as well as is skilled enough to do it. Now we need to draft and approve those mods, and that needs to be done pretty sharpish, so we can get on with looking how we're going to modify the chassis, where we're going to do it, and by whom. It's all very important questions, which I may have an answer for shortly. Parts from Holland. Well, this has been an absolute quagmire. Everybody who's been involved with it couldn't even dream of the complexities involved in repatriating them parts from Holland since we've left Europe. An absolute nightmare. But Anton and everybody else involved has pushed hard at moving it forwards. Now, we still have some to-ing and fro-ing of information between us and the Dutch, but in large, that agreement's in place. We sort of know what we're going to expect to get, and we know what parts that we don't actually want to waste. Transit costs in bringing them over, i.e. some bits they want to give us, we don't need. So we're not going to pay to bring them over to this country. There is absolutely no point whatsoever. Cab design. Derek has very kindly done a drawing for me, and it's taken a long time to do, and it's based on some rough drawings that I did quite a while ago and moved one step forward with them and put more information into them also. I have here a basic A0 drawing of the cab frame design, how it's got to be, how we're going to take into consideration EN 15227 crash-worthy regs as far as reasonably practicable. Now, this will be sent on to Don Carter, who's also done our calculations for the chassis very shortly, for him to assess whether it's capable of catching a Mark 1 coach at 45 miles an hour without injury to persons in the coach or the cab of the locomotive. That will be done very shortly, and no doubt Don's excellent work, what he's done there, will really go into depth and study what needs to be changed or what needs to be done. The electrical systems, I'm at awe at what the electrical team have done this year. I'm going to say no more, except that I need to arrange a meeting with yourselves and Mr. Derek Haynes, who was the mad professor of Towton on Class 58 electrical cubicles. I think you could learn from spending an afternoon with Derek quite a lot of any questions that you may have. I've met him a couple of times and he's highly entertaining. He is a character, but he's very well educated in that electrical cubicle. There is no doubt about that. We need to put that into place very soon. We've got purchases outstanding, obviously. We've not done bad with the raising of funds, but we've also been very diligent on what we spend them on to try and keep the funds together. We've got some expenditure with Holland, with parts. We've got some more parts to purchase. Brake-wise, with a lot of valves and equipment to purchase, Westinghouse. We need to reach out and approach different people and people from the past to try and achieve this. Personally, I was hoping to go and relieve some of the 86ers at crew, but the opportunity never arose. They've gone elsewhere, and it's nice to see the locomotives going for reuse, but we are getting nothing from those locomotives. That is a fact. And also we need to, we've got to now start looking at separating all these individual key components into their own project. We've got to look at how we're going to do this, who's going to lead what project, and also looking at costing and budgeting all those separate little projects, i.e. cooler group, chassis, bogies, electrical equipment, braking, cooling and bodywork. To this end, then we need to also instigate within all those sub-budgets and those sub-projects, we need to look at the approvals part of it. We need to look at who we can subcontract things to and who we can't. What we can do in-house, what we can't. As we move on into the build stage, we're going to have to prioritise cataloguing of everything and documenting everything and document control, as well as numbers for all the parts that we're using for the build. And this needs to be looked at in detail this year. It's all stuff that doesn't see the results of what we had last year, just going in and stripping a locomotive, but it's equally as important. And we need to ensure that we get everything that may have a question to it approved by a friendly expert. We need to look at this. With where the chassis is concerned, we have an uphill struggle, especially now it's winter, actually doing all the works that we need to do and keeping dry, but we've got to be very accurate in how we measure and quantify the chassis, as well as look at the modifications that's got to be done to it. I think personally we ought to really look at where we're going to send it for these modifications to be done and approved, i.e. let's not even contemplate doing them at Worksworth on back of a bloody sturgeon, pardon the French. Let's get it on some proper trestles. Let's get everything signed, sealed and drawn up properly and passed off. And then we've got a chassis to bring back to Worksworth and fit to our freshly overhauled bogies. With all this is all things that doesn't see physical movement in the process, but equally as important, we've got the locomotive's weight to quantify accurately. We've got all the locomotive parts need drawing into a fresh QA that achieves correct weight distribution, both sides of the locomotive. So obviously we do need to go through the process of weighing everything and trying everything as it is going to be. Looking forward, I will be seeking assistance, help and solutions of storage of large parts and equipment. Possibly we could look to subcontracting things out, like a design and build of a cooler group correctly. This would give us some space back at Worksworth, and also We're going to look at things like when we receive the traction motors from Holland, sending them straight to an electrical contractor for assessment. We don't have to worry about storing them in our building. And then we can look at what we're going to do when we actually identify the 3 best traction motors and where we're going to send them. So there's a hell of a lot of big wins, but no great visible progress in the next 12 months. But all equally as important for building this locomotive and finishing it. Has anybody any questions of anything I've just said?
Were you expecting the stuff from Holland, or is it still?
It's going to be sooner rather than later,
Yeah.
and it's going to cause a massive conundrum for us right at the minute. We definitely need to seek friendly help for storage of equipment. If we do get them sooner, and we hurry up and identify the correct contractor to assess the motors and what standard they're in, which they're fully overhauled, they're good to go. Everything I've seen says after a light dust and a clean, they'll work. But it gets them in the right place, we get the right tick for it, and then we can look to possibly asking someone who may be interested in storing them correctly for us. That way they don't get damaged.
Yeah, if they really want storing somewhere that's warm for.
Yes.
If you leave
Yes,
them in
that's
that shed
exactly what I'm
winter,
thinking.
Then they'll die without you ever using them.
Yes. That's exactly what I'm thinking. They've been stored dry and in a warm area all these years, and that needs to be maintained. And we need to look at that very quickly as soon as they land here. No temporary arrangements. They don't tarp up well traction motors, as you know. They need movement of air or a warm building.
Yeah, they do.
So that's a priority when we get those over here. And we need to start asking people on how much is it going to cost us for the right storage, or would they be helpful enough to store them temporarily for free? We're not going to know without asking, are we?
About UK Rail at Loughborough.
I'd personally like them to go somewhere away from where there's lots of work going off. Grinding, welding, traffic. They're extremely valuable to this project. For us to create 3 motors in that standard from what we've got is a massive bill. Not only that, those 3 motors enable us to strip 3 motors for the best components for the 3 final motors that get rebuilt. They will split down in so many subcomponents. It's quite astonishing actually. All the poles are interchangeable, so this is where we need to be looking when we get these in. And I estimate the way Anson is going is going to be this side of Christmas possibly, or just after.
One note of caution from personal experience, it's highly likely if you start taking those motors apart you'll find there's asbestos in the insulation.
We know there is. Now, there is the possibility when they left Great Britain there was asbestos under the interpoles, right?
Yeah.
When they've been rebuilt at Tilburg, I think it's been removed.
Yeah, yeah.
But what we have to do, obviously, is send one away and be assessed under strict conditions to assess whether there is still asbestos material underneath the poles.
Slot liners and all sorts of stuff like that. There's places where you might find it. And
from what I've seen of the overall motors at Tilburg, when Tilburg rebuilt these things, they nearly built new locomotives. There is not a part that didn't come off. There's not a part that didn't come in pieces. They completely and utterly rebuilt every motor, and they built new locomotives out of old. They didn't go out there. I think 27002 was the only one to actually venture onto Dutch rails in British rail condition. So I'm hopeful and I'm very positive that we won't find that. But if we do, we have to deal with it.
Well, if you're not disturbing it,
No.
it's fine.
To return our traction motors back to standard, those poles will have to come out. So we need to know that, and I think we will before long.
It's just expensive. It's not difficult. It's just expensive.
Yeah.
See what the assessment says.
Yeah.
Take it from there.
I'd be very surprised if it's anything other than modern material that's in there. They've been completely and utterly stripped down to every nut and bolt. Everything has. The Dutch never left nothing to chance with these locomotives. In fact, to be honest with you, I've actually inspected quite a few of them, and they completely redesigned the locomotive. It's completely different to Dutch EM2 to what a British Rail EM2 was. The equipment moved and everything. It was really laid out. It really was. So, fingers crossed, Graham.
Yeah, you got it.
Any more questions?
Okay. Over to you then, Andrew. Oh.
Concerning what you just said about those motors, the 6 that we've got, do they need the asbestos taking out as well?
The 6 we've got came from Holland.
Yeah. Oh,
They were from and underneath a working locomotive. So
no, I'm on about the motors that were in the bogies which are now worked with.
yes, they were from Holland.
Were they?
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
These were actually working on Dutch soil for a long time. They were only shipped over here in 1991, I believe. So
They were given as spares for Electra.
they were purchased.
They were
Purchased
as
by the
spares,
M2 locomotive group, as well as a quantity of spares. And the motors themselves and all the axles, everything we've seen up to press with stripping those bogies is Dutch, and there's prior evidence of British Railways. There wasn't just put to use. There wasn't just put out there and used. They were completely and utterly rebuilt in every nut and bolt fashion. So that is what we need to check. That's why our old traction motors, when we pick one, needs to go away for assessment. Make sure of that with qualified, competent people. Any further questions?
Item 11 then.
Right, publicity and fundraising. In regard to publicity, we haven't had much this year. We've latterly had some full-page ads in a few magazines, and that's resulted on some income and a lot of exposure for the group. I'd say part of the problem I've had is that I did go through a stage of some depression during the year, and so that impacted my ability to do the work. And with that in mind, it's good to always say it's good if other people want to come on board, if they have skills. Don't just assume that because there's somebody doing the role that we don't need extra help in that role. So if anyone has skills of publishing, as with all the other tasks involved, please do get in touch, because we'll be quite happy for you to have input into the project. In regard to fundraising, I'm going to say something a bit later on about that in any other business. I think we are continuing to grow each year in the amount that we receive in donations, but there's a long way to go, and we need to up our game even more, because as Paul's been saying, there's a lot of costs involved in work that has to be done. So we're looking at how to raise cash, and I'll speak about that in a few minutes. Any other business? And that's you first.
Okay. Yes. The only things that I've got for any other business were discussions about VAT, because as our finances are in a state, we're getting towards the thresholds for VAT, I believe. Is that am I? No.
Yeah. Well, the question was raised: should we register for VAT, particularly to get money back on stuff that we buy? It was also asked, were we at the threshold where we had to legally register? And as far as we can tell, that's based on £85,000 worth of sales. Now, including membership and anything we've actually sold, we're well under 10,000 worth of sales, and so we don't legally have to register for
And start
VAT.
charging for VAT.
We had quite a lot
Yeah.
of discussion about this, and worked out whether it was beneficial or not to apply for VAT. I think we decided at this stage, possibly not. Is that correct?
One of the aspects is we have no trustee who has experience at dealing with VAT, so we'd have to learn, which is another one of these situations where don't think that we don't need help. If you've got a skill, make yourself known, and so we would be interested to know if anybody has experience, such as a retired accountant or something, who would like to do some work for us. Then we could look at registering to get money back on VAT.
I do vaguely know how that works.
Yeah?
Not an accountant, but I have an accountant for a little business of mine that I'm not really doing that with at the minute. But the way it works is that when you buy things, obviously you have to pay VAT on them. So that goes into your business as a cost, and I think we call that input VAT. When you sell something externally, you can offset what you've paid out in VAT against the VAT that you collect from the person that you've sold it out to.
Yeah.
So if you're buying
Makes
everything all the
sense.
time, there's really not any benefit. In fact, it might even cost you money. So it's basically it's just a balancing act between the value you've added and by selling something on. But as where the society is at the moment, it's not actually selling anything much, is it? Mugs and t-shirts and etc. But so it probably wouldn't be worth your while, even if you did. And certainly it's a lot of paperwork I think involved, and very complicated records that you have to keep. And obviously you don't want to get the wrong side of that man because they're evil. They can do things to you, the tax man, that almost no other agency can.
I'm involved.
Than the police.
I'm involved with another railway preservation group, and they are VAT registered. They got VAT registered long before I joined, and the sole purpose was to reclaim the VAT from things they were buying. They explained to the VAT man that we've got no sales, but we are buying a load of stuff to do restoration, and he accepted that. And the only time that I've known that we've ever had a visit from the VAT man is when we built a carriage shed, and we wanted the VAT back on £250,000. When we explained to him what we were doing, it was a one-off expenditure. He was more interested in how we restore coaches than VAT.
Okay.
So I know what you're saying is about you're not spending a lot at the moment, but eventually when this loco's built, you'll be hiring it out, and you would be expected to charge VAT on it.
Okay.
The same with parts that you say are surplus and you're going to sell, you'll be charging VAT. It seems strange to me that you've spent £96,000 this year, and you've waved goodbye to 20% of that, £16,000. That sort of money you could spend part of it on learning how to reclaim the VAT. Now, according to our treasurer, the only ball ache, shall I say, is you have to do quarterly returns. But as long as your paperwork's in order and you don't pull any fast ones with the VAT, they're not bothered. You start trying fiddling, and that's when they come down on you.
Quarterly returns, as in just like profit and loss accounts, or just giving quarterly figures?
It's just how much of that you're charging and how much you're reclaiming.
Right.
But there is a special section on the government website specifically for charities and VAT.
Is that on that?
That's the
On
piece
that
I
email?
found, yeah.
I've got a copy of that with me if you want to have a look.
Okay.
But the other group I'm involved with, they've never had any bother.
I just thought you had to do all VAT online.
You can, but I don't think some people aren't online.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm no VAT expert, but I do know that this is how they do it.
That's the situation.
It definitely wants looking into sooner rather than later, because we're entering a big spending phase.
Yeah.
I think with that money there, I mean, 16 grand, it's 2 years shed rent, isn't it?
Yeah.
In that respect.
It's proper management of donors' funds as well, if we can achieve it. But we do need some expert assistance and guidance now.
To be fair, I have asked our treasurer for any more information, and he said, I'm just following on from the bloke before.
I can throw in a comment from experience elsewhere. You've clearly considered the issue and concluded that short-term no action should be taken. I suggest that you simply keep the matter under periodic review. The experience elsewhere is that the administrative burden certainly in one case has proved beyond the treasurer's capabilities. So it's very much a matter of balancing out the benefits against the potential costs, which are either subcontracting the work out and paying for that returns to be done, or having somebody within the organisation who's prepared to take on the task and the administrative burden. So by all means, I think your current decision is probably the soundest one that you could have come to. Keep the matter under review.
Yeah, we do.
Thank you.
Do we have an accountant as such?
An accountant?
The treasurer.
Can I give you that?
Oh.
And if you look at section 4, paragraph 2.
I've written it down. We're going to look it up, but thank you very much for that. Yes.
We've had Tony Brown doing quite a lot for us, haven't we? And he has been assisting us. He has when Tony can do it at his free time.
I'll talk about that in a second.
I think it's I think that the comment there is really important, that actually perhaps the biggest thing to decide this is when we've got somebody who can do the work. So in other words, it'd be great to recover 20% of our spend right now, if right now we can find somebody who's prepared to do the work. Because that seems, Andrew, you've made the comment a few times, if we've got more help to get stuff done, we would progress. And here's a good example. If we could get somebody who'd be happy to, who knows his way around it, or her way, knows their way around it, and or is happy to learn their way around it, then that's the benefit.
Agreed. I think a lot of us know a little bit about it, but nobody knows all about it. So we do need
need some expert input. And to further the urgency of it, I'm delaying spending some serious spends on us actually getting to the bottom of this. There's stuff waiting to be done, and it's starting to become a hindrance. And we don't want it to. We've got a reasonable amount of time to resolve it, but we need to start employing some expert people that's not going to come cheap, and we need to be in a position where we know where we need to be. We're either VAT registered or we're not before we employ them. And then it's
I
more
don't-
plain and simple for us to follow.
Certainly with some things you can reclaim historical. I don't know.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
there's-
you've got a point there, Bernard.
If there's a chance to reclaim for the last 2 years or something.
Yeah.
My understanding is you can't.
You can't.
No, not on that.
Oh,
But
okay.
again, I say I'm no expert.
Yeah.
I know a chap who used to be the secretary and the accountant for the DPS at one time.
Yeah.
So he's retired now. Was a proper accountant. He goes all over the world lecturing and stuff. I can have a word and see if he can point us in the direction
That'd be
of
great.
friendly.
Yeah.
A bit of expert guidance and assistance will be gratefully received.
That will get us through this.
This is
It'd
really
be
useful as
gratefully
well.
received.
This
Yeah,
We'll
I'll
get through
get
it
in
this
touch
week.
with him and just see if he can just point us in the right direction.
Yeah. Thank you, Graham. That's brilliant. Thank you.
You're trying to see him missing a trick, you know what I mean?
No, we don't want to. We want to explore every avenue. We know what we've got. Now's the time to get it all in the slots, lined up, and progress. I'm not
Spoken about much of what I'm going to say. First of all, I wanted to say that over the last year and since 2022, we've seen come on board a number of talented volunteers. And I just want to express my thanks and the thanks of the trustees. Most of them are here with us now. That have come on board and are assisting us and helping us to move forward. It's been a hard year for some of us, particularly for Paul. Paul has work to do, in his real job. And
I'll go there.
he's
Anyway,
got
I
a
leave
cunning
Ratcliffe
plan.
on Monday for the last time.
But luckily his absence of aspects of the project haven't been able to say, oh, can you donate to this? It'll cost this amount. But now we're at the point where we can establish those things and move forward. So if I can appeal to anyone who has experiences, particularly in financial areas, to make themselves known and to talk to me, you can email or phone the society and you'll speak to me and we can move forward. I'll shut up now. Is there any other business?
Nothing else was requested, I don't know, was there?
Is there any other business?
Can I just put in a slight plug for Cocoa Club?
Yep.
I don't really know how many people even know what it is. It's very simple.
Do you want to come to the front so the microphones will pick you up?
It's very simple. Basically, what we do is we've got a group of people who who basically buy raffle tickets, I guess you'd call it. It's all done electronically. It's a very simple process whereby every quarter we run a draw, and the money each raffle ticket is £5. The money that's collected in the raffle tickets, half of it then goes to IDRS, and the other half goes back as a first prize, second prize, third prize to the people on the draw. It's a very simple process to run, so it's cost efficient or cost effective. I think last time if I can remember it correctly, we had something like 57 tickets were sold in the quarter. So out of those 57 £5 tickets, I shouldn't be trying to do maths in my head, but we ended up with half of that total money came straight into IDRS, and the other half was distributed as prizes. The thing I'd stress to people is, if you do the National Lottery, you get no choice about what good cause benefits. And indeed, if you look at the actual National Lottery numbers, which I was involved a while ago in looking at how we could get funds from National Lottery for a couple of things, an awful lot of National Lottery funds go to an awful lot of good causes, I'm sure, but nowhere near anything that maybe is of interest to people here.
And the groups that we are interested in have to fight so hard to actually get into that, get that national
Yeah, you
lottery
basically
money. Yes.
National Lottery Heritage Fund, for example, is very, very constrained in where they put money. So if you're into just having a little bit of a gamble, if you are happy to spend £5 a quarter or £10 or 15, we basically do it that you buy tickets for each month, but it doesn't really matter. As long as you buy lumps of £5, you will be putting money into this pot of gold. At the end of the quarter, half of that pot of gold goes straight to IDRS, so you know the good cause, and the other half gets redistributed as first prize 70%, I think it is, second prize 20%, third prize 10%.
Looking into it when we set it up, I looked at the Swanage Railway, who do a similar sort of thing. We looked at quite a few of them, and they actually, the amount of money that they raised over a certain period paid for the new Swanage, I think it was the new Swanage signal box, and also the refurbishment of one of their parcels vans. So it brings in a lot of money, and the chances of winning are far higher than the National Lottery.
You don't win quite as much.
You don't win quite as much, but the chances of winning are a lot higher.
Further that, Bernard, then, it'd be beneficial if we advertise that on the side of the works for footfall.
Yeah.
And it may generate
a
couple of quid a year.
I
who knows?
took over running it probably about a year and a half ago.
Yeah,
something
because
like.
there was a lot to do.
We haven't.
for me,
It hasn't grown at all.
No.
We've had the same list of people.
Right.
Who are great, because obviously what they're contributing keeps it going. But that's why I wanted to mention it, because if we could get more people, I hadn't thought about it, but why can't we? We could advertise on the sign.
As you'll say, it runs itself. It's quite easy to run. Let's develop it.
Yeah. But I do two things: gift aid and the Cocoa Club. Cocoa Club is a dream compared to doing gift aid.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay. It might bring things in for people. There's a lot of people walk past the works who were visiting, or a lot of people from the local school are always going past. And these sorts of lottery things are they're not uncommon everywhere. And this one, if we promote it in the right way, we could bring quite a substantial amount in.
It's another way to be involved with the better benefit that you could actually win some money.
Yeah.
I like it.
Good idea.
Okay.
The only other thing, Tony, is the building domestics, the alarm system. That's in for that.
Yes, we had a spate of 2 or 3 calls, didn't we?
Yeah.
You got phoned at 2 in the morning or something silly. I think it's probably something we need to get serviced. We need to get the guy back and ask him if he'll just make sure everything's all right. I suspect it's spiders coming in, and it's hot and cold weather sends them off.
So I had to phone you, didn't Andrew?
Yeah.
It was only a week or 2 ago.
Yes, we had. Because you drove over, didn't you? Because the cameras weren't working, and so we need to do some work on that. It's an infrastructure thing, but we need to sort out between ourselves. Yes, so we'll minute that if you would, and I'll take an action to do that. We'll get you the cameras on your phone as well if you want.
Yeah.
But generally, the alarm goes off, and it's a single. We've got 8 sensors, I think, in the building. 4 of them are movement detectors, and generally, if it's just a single detection on one of the sensors, because the alarm guys should be able to tell us that when they phone us up. It's likely that it's a mouse or a spider or something like that. Even bright sunlight on the tree can cause movement, and it triggers it. I tend to be not too worried about a single thing. I'll look on the camera and see if I can find anything. But if it came to the situation where he said it had multiple things, so somebody's gone in and triggered 3 or 4 sensors, then we'll just phone the police and say we've got an intruder. Unfortunately, Mick, you being the closest.
But don't go through the door on your own.
Yeah.
Unless you've got a big stick.
Or a big policeman. Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll take that one. Right, just two things left. Item 13. Okay, it's a long way away, but we're penciling in Saturday the 5th of October 2024 as being the next meeting. Venue to be decided, I think we better say, because as you probably gathered, this isn't a hotel anymore. I don't know how long these conference facilities are going to stay. So I think it's kind of easier and nicer to be in Derby or in a city that's easy to get to. I mean, Wirksworth was cheap and cheerful, shall we say? But it's difficult to get to Wirksworth if you're not going to be travelling by car. So I think we will look for this if it's still going, or somewhere similar. I think.
Yep.
Yeah. But we will discuss that. But pencil in the 5th of October next year. Okay. Item 14, open forum for more questions. The only thing I'll say is there's some flyers over there on the table. I've got more in the boxes if you want to take a handful to, I don't know, light your fire with at home, or no, hand out at anywhere you go. It would be appreciated, and there's even a Cocoa Club one, isn't there? Yeah. Right, has anybody else got anything they would like to say?
Is the works open this afternoon?
I'm not planning on going up. You guys working this afternoon? I think you're going to the pub, aren't you?
Not a question, but a comment from the floor from one of your armchair members. We fully appreciate the effort that has gone into the project from the trustees and from the individuals who volunteer. Those of us who are too remote to volunteer thoroughly appreciate what everybody has been putting into the project, and we wish you every success.
Thank you very much.
Can I suggest, just on the comment about is the shed open, I wonder whether we ought to actually have maybe a regular, maybe once a quarter or something, a day when members know they can just come and visit and see what's happening. Because we have basically now 2 working days in the week, don't we? We have Saturdays and Tuesdays when people are doing stuff. I wonder whether if we had a quarterly members open day on maybe a Saturday or a Tuesday, so there's stuff going on, but people can turn up and have a look around, people who aren't otherwise able to visit.
Yeah, I mean, technically you can, those days you could come any of the ones, because there's, apart from this Saturday, there is generally somebody there, isn't there?
I'm just saying make more of a specific day.
Yeah, we could have a members' day, couldn't we?
Like every quarter, members' day, come along, maybe we put up the stand, and maybe also use it as a way to get the trustees together.
Yeah.
Would we tie that in with something that Wirksworth is doing, or have it as a complete separate thing that we're bringing people in?
Yeah, I suppose I'm saying if we have something, we always open when
they have an event.
Has an open day, but we don't have control over that.
No.
Whereas, I appreciate not all members will come from the Isle of Man, but wherever it might be. If people know that, look, the last Saturday of every quarter,
it will be open, no doubt about it. There will be trustees there. There might be people who come from further afield,
Yes.
just for the chance to have a look and
Mm.
have a cup of coffee or tea or whatever. You know, we don't need to do anything that special, but just make it so it's a definite commitment.
Sort of
We,
well,
we could also go possibly ask the railway their ideas on doing this as well. Maybe we could offer it as something else as well.
Yeah.
Make it more attractive for
Mm.
people to come and have a look, see what we're doing. And
Or at least get them a members rate on the railway.
yeah,
Yes.
So if
yeah.
you're coming to have a look at the IDRS shed, hey, you'll do a trip down the line.
down the
as
line
well.
for whatever,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's a positive for all our members as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, it's definitely worth looking into.
Andrew?
I was just wondering, I know it's a bit of an imposition, but whether it's worthwhile hanging a sign on the door that's reasonably visible from, say, across the road, saying we're open, come and have a look around anyhow when we've got
Yeah.
people inside.
Well, we have such a sign.
We have. It goes up on
it goes up on
gala days, yes.
Yeah, but
You
the
want an
sign on the
easier
door's
one.
easier than the big banner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah.
A plasticised one would be a lot easier on
Yeah.
pre-made hooks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That
something
can be
you
put.
could just hook on the
Yeah.
door.
Hello, we're open, come
It-
in and see what
yeah.
we do.
It's
Yeah.
simple. It's
Yeah.
on the back of the door when you open it. I'll put the sign out.
Yeah, that's
Simple.
good point.
And if you go down the track and we're not there, just take it off and shut the door.
Mm. So you put back in 5 minutes on the other side of it. Okay. Right. Open forum then, really. Anything you want to bring up?
anything else? Anything online? Anybody wanting saying anything
Nothing
online?
last I looked. No questions online.
Okay, well, in that case, I will declare the meeting closed. And there's tea and coffee outside if you want a cup before you go, and some biscuits. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
And just thank you for all your efforts that you put into everything, all the committee members and people.
Thank you.
Yeah, here.
Okay. Right.